So, Leaders Live, here we go. So, welcome to this episode of Leaders Live. Okay, we just wait for the feed to come up and we're just settling down with a little bit of entree music. So, it's 1st of March today. Yay! Spring is finally on its way, folks. And today I'm going to be hanging out with a fantastic wordsmith, Sue Richardson. I don't know whether you can see Sue in the top left there. Say hi, Sue. How you doing? Quick hello. There we go. There's a wave. Lovely. And helping us to engage this morning, we have the lovely, the wonderful, fab moderator, Birdin. Hi, Birdin. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks, Andrew. Looking forward to today's engagement.
Looking forward to today's engagement. Yeah, same here. I'm just waiting for the feed to pop up. Oh, and here we go. Here's the feed popping up. And we can see people joining up already. Isn't that brilliant? Isn't that good? It's always a relief when we see that.
Yeah.
So
yes, it is.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. So we know we're live then. So music by my Uncle Peter. And hey, folks, this is the 41st Leaders Live show. Yay! And that's fantastic because we've been growing this with you. This is a part of a growing community, really. We've done it all together. So that feels really exciting to us. So please let us know if our audio is coming across as well, folks, and say hello to us in the comments. You know how it goes. So good morning, Andrew Bryant. Good to see you. So, oi, people. It's Leaders Live showtime, folks. Yay. And it's just after 8:45 in the morning here in the UK, and we are live with Leaders Live. Spreading the love, folks, spreading the love, yabba dabba do. So we're streaming out on LinkedIn, we're streaming out on YouTube, we're streaming out on Facebook profiles in a group or two, we're streaming out on Twitter apparently, and well, we're hoping we're streaming out on Twitch as well. I don't know, we'll figure out whether that works or not, but ta-da, it all somehow hangs together. Now, if you can't catch us live, now obviously you are catching us live now, but you can also catch us on the replay. So fear not, my friends, we have you covered. All of our shows are now on podcast too, so that's great. Thanks for telling us the audio's coming through. That's brilliant. We're on Anchor FM, Spotify, Apple, Google for podcasts, so you can listen to us later. So, if you're jogging, driving, in the car, on a train, plane, automobile, you can catch up while you're cooking or ironing. It's so exciting. So, yeah, if you're new to Leaders Live, say hello to us in the comments, folks. We'd love to say hello and engage with you as well. And it's great to see you guys all just chipping in right now. Please chip in. Remember, too, this is an interactive show, folks. So please let us know you're on and get involved, join in, ask questions, network, tease each other, tease me if you like, have a bit of banter. You know how it goes. Okay, so this morning we have, let me just bring up Sue Richardson for a moment. I'm hanging out, folks, with, wrong scene, I'm hanging out with my guest this morning, business book publisher and CEO of the Right Book Company, Sue Richardson, and we'll be chatting about leaving a legacy in black and white. Ooh. How you doing, Sue?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much for inviting me on your lovely show.
Well, it's great to have you on the show. So we're delighted to have you on the show. So, look, you've had a bit of a hard start this year, haven't you? You've been poorly the start of the year. And you even, had pneumonia. I mean, what that's about? That's, gosh, it's so hard to recover from stuff like that, but it's great to see that you're recovering. So,
yeah, I'm recovering very well. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, looking forward to a lovely spring, hopefully.
Indeed. Well, the signs are coming. The signs are coming, folks. The daffodils are up and the blossoms starting on the trees, which is fantastic fun. So, Sue, you published my 2 books, didn't you? And here's my 2 books. Woo! So we'll talk a little bit about that, I'm sure, as we're going along. But yeah, just to let you know, my link with Sue is that she's published my 2 books, and Sue will help you to understand how you can apply writing a book as a way to grow your business success. And I think that deserves an and it really works, and it really worked for me. And so I might be able to chip in here and there as well with some experience about book writing for my business. So quick jump over to our wonderful moderator again. Enjoyed the countdown. I'll briefly introduce Birdin, our fab moderator. Here's a chance to say a bit more to everyone, Birdin.
Good morning, everyone. Looking forward to everyone's engagement today, as well as this is a great topic where you can all chip in. So let's start the conversation.
Yeah, and Sue will keep you, Birdin will keep you on the comments and keep things going. So that's brilliant. So we're looking forward to that. I'm going to come back to you in a moment, Birdin. We're going to keep coming back and forth to you, and I'll come back to you too, Sue, in just a tick. So quick tease, or just before I get there, as mentioned, Leaderslive, it's an interactive show, folks, so please join in, use the comments for questions and engage with us and with each other, and remember, it's a group conversation. You know how it all goes, folks, and if you don't, you'll find out as we're going along. So quick tease. So I love the old line that what is black and white and red all over? Well, it's a book, right? Yeah, do you get that? It's a book. Ooh. You have to think about that. And in a couple of weeks back, we chatted about stories to make business life even more successful. And that was with Sarah Hughes. And this week's Leaderslive, we take a chapter or two further and translate those stories into a book. See what I did there? Ooh. And they say we all have a book buried somewhere deep inside us, don't they? Whoever they are. So we'll be coming to that too. And have you ever thought that writing a book could be a game changer for your business, to share your wisdom with even more people and open even more doors? And perhaps to get it done, you could even use your 2022-2023 marketing budget. Now there's an idea, folks. And today we're going to explore, why do you think business and thought leaders should write a book? And how can you be sure your published book will be read? Ooh. And what makes a successful business book, and what makes it useful? And how long does it take to publish a book? I don't know, but Sue does, and we'll find out all of this today with Sue. So this and a whole lot more. We can't wait. Put it all together, and what have you got? Yeah, you've got it, folks. Bibbidi bobbidi boo. You'll probably be singing that song all day now. And there's freebies too, folks, so stick around to the end and we'll talk about those freebies as we go along. So quick, but just before we get going, if you're new to the Leaderslive show and you don't know me, I'm Andrew Jenkins. So smash those likes, folks, and those thumbs up. We really appreciate it. Keeps us going, keeps us motivated, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And Birdin will add the links to the comments right now. I can't tell you how much we need your support on growing that channel. So please help us out there. So back to you, Sue. Let's just bring Sue up. So. Well, I hope that you found that to be a big build-up, Sue, but just before we begin, let's get even more betterer. How about this? Oh. So for those of you on the podcast, we're just playing confetti right now, and Sue will be clearing that up for weeks, I'm sure. So I hope you love the groovy build-up, Sue. And so Sue, kick us off. You've got a couple of questions for us, that you'd like to ask the audience to get us going. Take it away for us.
Yeah. So before you and I get sort of hunkered down,
yeah.
I thought it would be interesting to just kind of pose a couple of questions to your audience, to our audience today, so that they could be perhaps thinking about what we're talking about, but thinking about it a little bit from perhaps their point of view. A lot of people say to me, write a book? You got to be kidding, but actually they're business leaders, and there's all sorts of reasons why, they might want to think about it. So I've got a couple of questions, and I wondered if perhaps as we go along, if you might want to share those with us in the comments, and let Birdin and Andrew and me discover them a bit later on, maybe. But
Absolutely.
Anyway, so a couple of questions. First one is, do you have a big idea, or even perhaps just the start of a big idea that kind of is eating away at the back of your mind, that could actually possibly be the start of a book idea? Is there something there in your head? And the second question is, when you reach out to people who don't know you at all, how are you doing that right now in your business? So how are you going out and finding people, new people, to help you to grow your business in any particular way? Those are the two questions.
Okay.
Do you have a big idea, and how do you reach out to people to help you grow your business currently?
Lovely. Well, those are in the chat already, Sue. So it takes a little bit of time for those to come through. So there's a slight delay in the feed. So just a quick one, just to catch up with where people are at the moment. Good morning, Cathie. It's always been on my top 100 things to do before I die list. The bucket list. Here we go. Thanks, Cathie. Great to hear from you, Cathie. And Cecile says, good morning, everybody. And so does David Wilkes, my mate David Wilkes, fellow Brummie. Great. Okay, good. So before we get to the comments, let's just pose another question and to allow those comments to come through from your previous two questions. So, why do you think sort of business leaders and thought leaders should actually write a book, Sue? Why is this important? Why should we pay attention here? Take it away for us, Sue. What say you?
Nice question. So, well, as you know, Andrew, I mean, I think what this really is about credibility. It's about being seen as the leader, as the expert, by, in a sense, kind of exploring your thoughts in public, I guess, might be a way of looking at it. But also kind of establishing with an audience, either of those who already know you, but those who perhaps don't even know you yet, that you know your stuff. I do a lot of interviews with successful business book authors, and Grant Leboff was really brilliant on this. Probably people may well know of him. He's a brilliant marketing speaker and has written many books on the subject. And he talks about how kind of when you are if you like, to kind of develop thought leadership, you kind of need to have thoughts, and by putting them in a book, you've shown people that you've got those thoughts. So there's something around leadership and being willing to step into a space with doesn't have to be madly original. It could just be some thinking with a twist, if you like, but some kind of thought leadership is going to really help to establish you as a business leader, as the go-to expert in your field.
Yeah, I like that. Thinking with a twist, Sue. That's really interesting. Love that idea.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people, I mentioned the big idea.
The big idea.
And in a way, there's a bit of irony around that because actually, how many big ideas are there really in the world? We don't have to be 100% original to show our leadership, to show our thought leadership, to show our leadership. We just have to perhaps be able to show something, a little twist, a little difference, a little originality. And that might be as simple as using our own authentic voice. A lot of people talk about leadership and they talk about how authenticity is so important.
Yeah.
I know this is something that's quite dear to your heart, Andrew. And it's like, that whole kind of being yourself and being brave enough to be who you really are. And actually, what a great way to do it, to put those thoughts, that thinking into a book and make it really yours. It doesn't have to be an absolutely 100% original idea. But it just needs to be something that's
so you're
yours.
Developing an idea. It's like standing on other people's shoulders, they say, don't they? Take an idea and take it further. Is that what you're saying, Sue?
Absolutely. How many leaders go about their leading of their business and doing something completely different? Very, very few. But many good leaders will take other people's ideas and they will use them, they will absorb them, they will explore them, and then potentially perhaps just add their own personality, their own twist to them to make it work for them.
Twist and personality, yeah. So I'm just going to quickly bring the Birdin back on. What's going on in the comments? I can see there's a few bits and pieces going up. What's going on, Birdin?
Yeah, here's a few questions. Cathie asked, the big idea is my business. Does that count?
Does that count?
The big idea is my business. Is that?
Yes.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Cathie really well, and she's taking some big leaps in faith right now to get her business going, and and how that, and how that is, growing her just as an individual, and what that means to her family, her own growth, stretching beyond the fear zone. Cathie, we've talked about all of these things quite recently, actually. So, yeah, I suppose it does count then, Sue. If Sue says it counts, right?
Oh, I mean, for sure. I mean, it's exactly, if you're, yeah. And your, Cathie, I just spotted your second question about offering a new perspective, rather than being the top expert in your field.
There we go.
Absolutely. I mean, I love that. That's exactly what I think it is. I think that, of course, we'd all like to be at the top of our game. We'd all like to be, the leader in the field as well as the leader of our own business. But the fact is, we can't all be up the top. You don't have to be all up. You can be absolutely, giving that fresh perspective is the important thing. And that's how a book can really help you, not only to express that, but also to get that message out to people who don't know that about you yet.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, very nice. What else is going on, Birdin? Thanks, Sue.
We've got David. David asked, for the books orientated around your business, should you charge for your book? Do you give it away? Or do you charge but give it to some big accounts?
Oh, nice question. Nice question.
Very nice question. Yeah, absolutely. Well, the beautiful thing about a published book that's properly available and distributed, preferably through the book trade, as Andrew's books are through us, that you have an opportunity to mix it up in exactly the way that suits you and your business. So we have clients who do every kind of variety of different way of getting their book out there. But the heart of the book is obviously something with an RRP on it. It is a product that you're selling. But because you own it, you own it, or if you're published by a traditional publisher, you need to buy copies from them. Yeah. But one way or the other, you have your copies and you sell them, you give them away, you do whatever works for you. Yeah. So it's a little bit, without having the kind of detail of it. I think the clue here, the key here is to create a really good marketing plan. And that might include a lump of books. Andrew, if I remember rightly, when you brought out You Are More Than You Think, you gave away quite a lot of copies in the initial launch phase, didn't you? People that that you wanted. Remind us, did you do that? And then
so for me, the retail price of this book was about £20 at the time, 1999. So it was a chunky book, so it's 93,000 words. And I think it was you, Sue, that encouraged me to sort of say, look, we can pre-sell these. And I'm like, oh, pre-selling? What do you mean? We haven't even got a book yet, and you can do pre-sales. And for that, we created a website, and I asked my LinkedIn followers that I've got a great connection base, and look, this book's coming out. Would you be interested in this book? And I was amazed at I was overwhelmed actually how many people bought into that book before it was even published. So people had already bought it and committed to buying it ahead of time. I was really surprised at that, David. That was just quite an amazing revelation to me, that actually you can even sell books before they're there, on the promise that it's coming, right, as a pre-sale. Yes, I did. When I went to meet clients, I took my book with me, and that was a way of an exchange of something. Look, here's a little bit about me, this is what I've done, you might find this useful. So, and I found that to be a really nice way of breaking into a conversation with a new client or a prospective client, is just to give them a free copy of my book and sign it. And that meant a lot to them and meant a lot to me, because it was a real authentic exchange, it just helped to lubricate the whole the whole kind of conversation to begin with. But I have to say, talking about a marketing plan, I did have a very purposeful marketing plan, Sue, that you helped me with, actually, to develop the book and to use that as part of, you know, the next 2 or 3 years marketing, to use my book as a lever for that marketing. And that was really useful to see it in that way. So I share that with you as well, folks. Is that where you're heading, Sue? Is that kind of where you were thinking?
Absolutely. Yeah, perfect. Brilliant.
David, I hope that answers your question. So it's a combination of all sorts of things. My second book, which is a lot thinner, it's called Developing High Performing Teams. My first book was You Are More Than You Think. That one, I did a lot of freebie copies, you know, all sorts of places. And it went all over the world, actually. So it's a combination of both. Yeah, you know, sometimes you can make money out of books, you know, selling them at the back of a room, for example. I did a lot of that in my early days with my book, and it was really useful. For years, actually, I did that, you know, until I ran out of copies, basically. The idea was to get rid of all the books that Sue had delivered to me on a big pallet, and that was the aim, to get rid of them in my garage.
And you did.
And I did, yeah, that's right, yeah. So, you know, one thing that I wanted to move on to was the whole prospect of writing a book, that people might be thinking, okay, what's the process? You know, is it scary? Is it daunting? You know, getting that first book published. You know, and so just talk us through that whole process, because I know I found that quite daunting. You know, how can you be sure that your published book will actually be read? It was one of my big insecurities. Talk us through that, Sue.
Well, actually, I think what we've been talking about already, and what you've just told us so brilliantly about the way that you launched You Are More Than You Think, is kind of like, you know, we're already covering this in a way. It's about, you know, making sure that you make as many people aware that your book exists. But I think what's really important as well, if we step back a little bit into the kind of like what you're thinking about, what your idea might be, to think about what is it that your audience needs.
Right.
So what I always kind of say to people is that it's really important to walk through quite a strategic approach to publishing your book. And this is really, you know, my company's called The Right Book Company, and that's for a very good reason. I see an awful lot of people publishing independently, whether they're self-publishing or they're publishing through a professional publisher that they're paying. And they come out the other end and their book isn't quite right. It doesn't quite do what they wanted it to do. And I think sometimes that's simply a case of not having been clear enough about what it is that you want in the first place. So the why of your book is absolutely crucial. Start with why. Why is it that what is it you want to see happen precisely in your business as a result of you having become a published author and this book existing in the world? But then really importantly, and side by side with that, is the who. So who do you need this book to reach? Whose life do you need to change? Who do you need to influence with your book? You know, is there a particular CEO of a particular company who you would love to work with? You know, depending on, I don't know what it is that you all do, but, you know, is there somebody out there that you would love to be introduced to? What would happen if your book landed on their desk? If you were to write a book that you think would get through that door, you know, what would that be? So the why and the who are really important. And then you can decide on what it is that you've got to write. And finally, the how. So the how is the how you get it done. You know, what help do you need? What resources do you need? How will you get it actually published? What's the best publishing route? Those kind of things. So that very strategic approach will really help you, I think, to create a book that actually does a job. It's like giving a book a job description and saying, right, you know, get on with it. Because, you know, if you employ somebody and you don't tell them what to do, they're not likely to be very good at their job. You know, we all know about how to kind of give people objectives and give people goals and give people, you know, a reason for why they're doing things. You need to do the same with your book. It'll help you get it written, because you'll have purpose behind it. Indeed. But it'll also really, really help to make that book work once it's out there in the world. And then you can do all the lovely things that we've touched on already, which is about creating a good marketing plan, making sure that you get the book out to those people that you feel need it or need to see it.
Yeah, so start with the why, folks, then move on to who's it for, then you can approach the what, and the how's just drop out later. And I think the key thing here is, and we'll come to comments in a moment, but one of the things that I noticed about this is, look, when you've got a publisher, that means you've got an editor, and an editor will really keep you on track in terms of how do you talk to your audience and how do you open up that conversation with your audience and your ideal avatar and all of those things. So I found that to be really helpful to have an editor which is not only pushing me to get words out every month and every week, but also looking at the tone and the way you communicate to your audience. And that takes a little bit of practice, right? And that comes through writing the book, and you might not know how to do it initially. And I could certainly say, yeah, it's not about the hows, it's about the whats, but your editor will show you how as you're going along.
I love that, Andrew. And one of the things I think that there's a slight kind of misconception, I think, perhaps of people who haven't written a book yet, is that they have a tendency to think they've got to do it all by themselves. And as you know, it's a team effort. We think of like writers in their garrets, kind of slaving away over their kind of, with their parchment and their quill, and it's like, no, it's absolutely not. Make it, especially if you're in business leaders, don't have very much time. And that's another objection that I hear all the time. How could I ever find the time to write a book? Don't imagine for a moment that you will be on your own. Go and get the help that you need. And that comes into the how, of course. But it's really important to think about this as something that you can do with help. And that starts, as you rightly say, and you will write a better book if you engage a good editor to help you do it, because that you've got that other perspective then always. It's not all just what's going on inside you. You've got someone there going, okay, how is this landing with somebody else? What's happening? So that's all really great advice. I love that, Andrew.
So important. I find it is a team game, writing a book. You don't have to do it alone, and in these days you can just self-publish and stuff, but my thought is, look, do it with a team, and it's so much more rewarding as well. Birdin, what's going on in the chat? Just give Sue a break for a minute. What's going on in the chat? Catch us up.
Cecile said, congrats, Andrew. I'm working on a book and wanted to know if you offer edit advice or how to get it published. Thanks. Yeah,
Sue, what do you think? I think absolutely that's where Sue comes in. Have a conversation with Sue. Sorry, Sue.
Yes, definitely, absolutely. If your book is particularly if your book is related to your business in any shape or form. I tend not to be very good on things like fiction or children's books or anything like that. That's just not my thing. But if you want to talk about, it doesn't have to be a business book, but if your book is related to your business in any way, I'd be delighted to have a chat. We've got a bit of an offer, haven't we, Andrew, for later? So
we have, we'll come back to that.
I think that there'll be an opportunity for you to hook up with me and we can have a chat.
Yeah, and I really strongly suggest, if you like, Cecile, you take that offer up, because I found that to be really useful. As we said earlier, it's a team game and you can't do it alone, really. So thanks. Birdin, what else?
Cecile also said yes, and it is writing with your heart in addition to the whys and the whos.
Oh, I like that, Cecile. That's lovely. That comes back to that authenticity piece, I think, that we mentioned earlier. It's about really being you, and actually writing a book gives you an opportunity to really explore that. I actually often think that writing is one of the best self-development exercises that we have kind of available to us. It helps us explore ourselves. I mean, we might be writing a book about business. We might be writing a book that's, based in our thought leadership. But we have to dig really deep into ourselves to find what it is that's special about what we know.
Yeah.
So I think again, I mean, I remember so clearly, Andrew, I know it was a few years ago now, but I remember so clearly your journey.
Oh yeah, it's a journey.
When you came, when you met, we met 10 years ago, nearly 9 years ago or something. And you came to see me, and we did a strategy session then, and you were so ready. But then you didn't know what was about to come, which was
it's a big surprise.
The writing of that book and how it opened everything up for you. It was wonderful.
Yeah, and the relationship I had with the editor that you assigned to me was just phenomenal, and that's a very special relationship, folks. So yeah, as again, it's a team game, but that relationship is really special because you're digging something out of you that's a discovery for yourself. You just don't know you've got it in you. You know something's in there, and a skilled editor will get it out. And I remember getting stuck in the middle, and my editor being really quite, oh yeah, I know all about the middle of a book. It's called the middle 8. And I thought, what is the middle 8? And she said, well, it's a bit like music. The musicians can figure out the first 8 bars, and they can probably figure out the last 8 bars. But the middle bit, the middle 8, that's really hard to figure out. And I got stuck in the middle of my book. And it was great to hear my editor say that actually this is quite normal. We get stuck in books, and that's just part of the process. If it's important, it takes time to dig it out. It doesn't all just fall out on the page, folks. There's a self-discovery piece there too. You find out all about yourself and what really counts. Yeah. Birdin, what else is going on?
Cathie said, great advice. I had a desire to write a book before, but now I've got a framework and I know where to start. Next challenge, how to fit it in.
Yay!
Sounds like another coaching session coming up, Cathie.
I love that, Cathie. I love that you like the framework, and I'm really pleased. That's delightful to hear.
Yeah, that is, isn't it? Yeah, that deserves a wow, doesn't it? Let's do a wow.
It does. Yeah, go for it. Wow! How to fit it in? Yeah, that is
the challenge.
Yeah. And Cathie, please do reach out later on. We'll tell you about the opportunity to have a chat if you want to, and perhaps you and I can explore that last piece. How to fit it in.
Yeah, how to fit it in. Yeah, magical time traveling elves. That's what you want, Cathie. Birdin, what else is going on?
Okay. Cecile just mentioned that the book is about well-being and self-awareness.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And then Chris James said, I have just finished Train the Sales Trainer. Are you interested in working with me?
There you go. Just like that. Chris is brilliant. He just comes up with these pearlers, doesn't he? So yeah, nice one, Chris. So there you go. Sue, meet Chris. Chris, meet Sue.
Hello, Chris. Of course I'm interested.
Yeah, Chris was on the show a few weeks back now, actually. We talked about sales, and so he's been on ever since. So brilliant. Good morning, Chris. Great to see you. Yeah.
Cecile said thanks for the offer, and she'll gladly take it up.
Okay.
We'll share the details with you later, Cecile, later in the show.
Yeah, fantastic.
And then Cathie said, yep, more work for us to do. And
Cathie's one of those drivers in life. She's a very high achiever, is our Cathie. So that was brilliant stuff. Okay, so
that.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about it is daunting, folks. Writing something for the first time. It's putting pen to paper, getting an empty page, and starting to to bring it out. Some people write by having a list of chapters, and they've got some structure, and I did that for my second book, but my first book just sort of dropped out chapter by chapter, and it was really hard for me to figure out, well, where was the beginning, the middle, and the end. And we did have a structure to work to, but it kept changing, as more of my intuitive ideas came up. So there's lots of different ways of writing a book. As I said, the how drops out later, folks, as Sue quite rightly said. So, what makes a successful business book, Sue? What makes it useful? How do you determine success in this, in the whole book writing, business book writing piece? What say you?
Well, I suppose it's, it's that making sure that you've got that job description, making sure that so it's about, when you say success, do you mean success for you? Do you mean success in terms of, it depends what your objectives are. How do you define success? You know, if landing your book on the desk of a particular CEO opens a door for you that brings your business into another stratosphere, then that could be deemed success. For other people might be going into this and saying, I want to sell 10,000 copies in the first 3 months. That is a much harder thing to achieve.
Yeah, I remember saying that.
And, you know, so have a look at those objectives first. I think that goes back to what we were saying before. You know, I often hear people say, oh, you know, the whole point of me doing a book is I need to be a bestseller. I need to sell thousands of copies. This is what I'm doing it for. And for me, it's like, well, yes, but why? You know, dig deeper than that. You know, what do you want to see happen as a result of, if you did sell thousands of copies or hit the bestseller list or whatever, what would that mean? Because quite often, if you're driven purely by book sales, you'll be disappointed. Because book sales in themselves may or may not happen. Business books particularly sell very small numbers, but also, you know, self-care, personal well-being. It's a massive, there are lots and lots of books out there, folks. I know you won't be surprised to hear that. You know, don't think to focus on what your book will bring you, but don't necessarily put too much effort into the bit of believing that if you sell lots of copies, that will automatically happen, because the two don't necessarily tie up.
Yeah, I mean, it took. I remember our first print run, Sue, and you know, it took what 2 or 3 years, three years, maybe 4 years to get through all of those, and those all sold in the end. It was a long game we played. Yeah. And you know, there are lots of stages here about success. So you know, we talked about pre-sales earlier on and developing a website that supports the book. So there's first step, you know, to get a website that supports the book, and that can be a small success because then you can start to build the pre-sales. So there's a tick, yeah. So there's a first part of gaining interest, and then there's the whole thing about the book launch that I found incredibly useful. And I remember us talking about this, Sue, and I said I'm going to invite something like 150 people to it, and you said, well, that's a new one, because normally they're quite casual affairs, and I decided to launch it to all my business friends and people that I knew, which was absolutely amazing. Actually, it turned out to be a really great evening, didn't it? It did. Quite amazing. And we had nibbles and wine around the book. And Sarah, my wife, was just a consummate seller, and she just pitched up at the front of the door and just basically required a book sale from every person that walked in. I was quite surprised that she just did that, and it was like, wow, you know. So that was another sort of step of success. And when we got home, we thought that was really successful, you know, to have that book launch and to have that experience and to have that wonderful evening where, you know, wine and cheese and nibbles and, you know, great conversation flowing, and this conversation around the book, it was just great. You know, and then selling the book at the back of rooms was another success, you know, and you walk away, you know, after doing a day's event somewhere, and then, you know, 50 people have bought your book. You know, how nice is that? You know, these are the little successes that you get along the way. And I found that to be incredibly useful to augment, you know, my own, you know, not just, well, just what I do. And, you know, I wrote the book to be authentic. It was called You Are More Than You Think, The Return to Your Authentic Self. So, you know, and I found that to be incredibly motivating, that people would want to buy it and want a signed copy and would queue up for it. I was amazed. So, you know, those were the successes to me. And then, you know, where did the book take me? You know, and I remember I had a book on me in my hand, actually, in London one day. I was going to a speaking gig, and for some reason I just had it in my hand. And I was in Starbucks that morning, early in the morning before the event had begun. And David Cameron walks in with his 2 bodyguards. And we started to strike up a conversation, and I had this book in my hand, and I desperately wanted to give it to him, but I just didn't have the kind of, you know, the guts to do that with him. So I sent it to him later, and I got a letter back from David Cameron saying, "Thank you very much for your book. Yes, I enjoyed our meeting too." It was like, wow, it was one of those weird moments. I've sold books on trains. I've sold books in America. You know, I've been to America because of my 2 books. In Kenya, I took 2 box loads, if you remember, Sue, to Kenya. To just have an event over there, which is absolutely outstanding. So it's amazing.
But that was an amazing story, Andrew, because that happened because of the book, didn't
That's
it?
right. Yeah. Yes,
You know,
it did.
you actually met that lady from Kenya. She came to a training session you were running in London, but it was the book. You know, you always said to me, you know, she read the book on the plane on the way back, and then she contacted you afterwards, and you always said that you felt that book had helped that door to open enormously.
Yeah.
So what is a successful business book? Well, it's, you know, it's what works.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily what hits the bestseller list. It's not necessarily what hits thousands and thousands of copies.
Yeah.
It's what works for you. It's what works for your audience. Does it solve the problems? So one of the things I always say is ask, if you're not sure, ask your clients, ask the people who know you in business, what is it that they need from you? Yeah. Ask what would make a successful book for them. And write that book.
Yeah. And I think the other observation I had, Sue, I don't know whether your other authors would say the same, but you're part of the process of that book. You know, it's part of you. You're part of it. You give birth to it. It's actually quite painful, folks. It is. I mean, I've not given birth, obviously, but it feels like giving birth, that book. It's really painful process, but it's exciting process as well. It's a bit like, you know, giving birth to a newborn. You know, it's exciting but scary all at the same time. But you are part of the process, folks. You know, you sell that book as well. So, you know, what makes a successful book? Well, part of it is your ability to sell it as well, and to have ways of doing that actually are part of who you are as well in the process. So don't dismiss that. It's not all about your book. You know, you're not hiding behind the book. It's actually, you know, you're supporting each other, if you like. I don't know whether you've got anything to add to that. So.
Oh, I love that. I love that, Andrew. That's such a good point. That it's not all about the book, it's about what you do with the book. Yeah. And it's like, you know, you with that book in your hand in that coffee shop.
Yeah.
David Cameron walking in. It's just, you know, the serendipity of that, you know, the kind of the craziness of the absolutely untold opportunities that are out there. You don't know they're there, but that you can kind of make happen because of the activity around the book. The fact that you walk around with a copy everywhere, like you did for such a long time, that you always had one on that train, you know, right there in front of you on the table, so someone could go, what's that? You know?
And that's exactly what they did. You know, this lawyer sits by me and she says, oh, that looks an interesting book, can I have a look at it? And she turned to the back page and she looked at the photograph at the back, and she looked at me, she looked at the photo, she looked at me, she looked at the photo, she said, is this you? And I said, yeah. She bought it immediately, just like that. Yeah. It was like, oh,
just brilliant. So great. So, you know, it's like all the things that Andrew did that you can do, that you kind of like, you're enabling an infrastructure to come into your business that you didn't have before. It's like a whole kind of wing of the building suddenly appears and enables so much more to happen because you've created it, and you can create all this noise around it. And what that noise is saying is, hey, I know my stuff. You know, I've got something here that's special. I've got something to share with you out there in the world. You know, come and get it. Or I'll come to you. You know, it really puts you out there in a way that I don't think anything else quite does.
Yeah. And absolutely, it's spot on. Birdin, just give us a break for a minute. What's going on in the chat? What else is happening?
Cecile just said, thinking of writing a book for a personal achievement, and this way there's less deception.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. If I'm reading that correctly, I don't know whether this is the right link or not, but I remember a pallet arriving with Sue's published book that I had to open my garage for, you know. And I remember looking at this massive pile of books, Cecile, and thinking, oh my gosh, my job now is in the next sort of 12 to 24 months is to reduce this pile down to something much more manageable, because it took a huge amount of my garage space. But that was a massive sense of achievement for me. Right, okay, I've got to get on this now and reduce this pile and start selling this book. And rather than it being daunting, the last thing I wanted, I set myself a goal, Cecile, of, right, this book's going to go from my garage, and it did. It took 3 years or whatever, but, eventually it wasn't in my garage anymore. I could actually get my car in my garage again. I just put them upstairs for a little while. And then Sue had them, boxes and boxes of books. And, but we're able to move all of those books, in all of that time. And now we're into reprints. So, yeah, it is a part of your personal achievement, yeah, if I'm reading you correctly, Cecile. Do you read anything else in that, Sue? Is there anything you want to comment on that comment?
No, I think you nailed it. I think that's great.
Okay, I hope that was what you wanted to, if that helps, Cecile. So look, we could talk for ages, but we're kind of coming to a point where we need to think about, okay, taking this to a conclusion. And as I said, we could talk for ages, couldn't we? But final question for you: how long does it take? I mean, people might be thinking about this themselves. How long does it take to get a book published from beginning to end? So, roughly speaking, what are you talking about here?
I love this question.
Yeah.
This is that famous piece of string question.
Yeah, I thought you'd say that.
But one of the things I love about this question is, don't be fooled into thinking you can do this quickly.
No.
Because it isn't a quick thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be a quick thing to do. I think there's lots of reasons for that. One is you need to give yourself time to write the right book.
Yeah.
So you've got to give yourself that time to do that strategy piece.
Yeah.
You've got to give yourself time to do the thinking. I remember when I wrote the series that you wrote for when you wrote
The guides, these ones. Yeah.
Was the authority guides, and my team said, right, Sue, you've got to put your money where your mouth is, and you've got to write one. So I wrote the authority guide to publishing a business book.
Yeah.
What else? Which it was great, but was like, there was me suddenly like going, okay, now I'm the author, not the publisher. Well, I am the publisher, but I'm also the author. So I had to get down and do it, and I just was not getting there. And my production manager,
feel the pain, Sue.
She was going, come on, where is it? I need it. So I took myself off to Mallorca for a week, thinking, right, I'm a good writer. I can write 2,000 words a day, blah, 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 and this will be my time. Get up at 6 a.m. I'll write for 4 hours, and then I'll go and sit by the pool,
Oh, yes.
I completely forgot about how much time you need for thinking. Because when you write, and then it makes you think. You have to go away and think a bit. You might have to go and look some stuff up. You might have to read somebody else's stuff. You might have all sorts of things happen as you write. So give yourself lots and lots of time. Yeah. When it comes to the production piece, that will depend on how you work. If you were working with a professional publisher such as myself, it takes around 6 months. Mm-hmm. So from the moment you've got the final draft of your book to publication is around 6 months. And that's, there's lots of bits that go into doing it all really properly and really well.
Like copy editing
and all that.
Proofreading and all of those things. It takes time, folks.
So it's how long is a piece of string, but with 6 months on the end of it.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I mean, my first book, this one took 9 months to write because I got stuck and stuff like that. But it was all right, But I was pleased with that.
Big book.
Oh, and I remember my editor saying, right, you now need to go and celebrate. So I bought myself a longboard. So that's what she said. So I took it absolutely by literally and decided, right, I need to treat myself. So that was 9 months. This process, this one was, I think it was only 20,000 words, but it took I think about 12 weeks from beginning to end to get that one, but it was already in my head, and the editor's a different editor at this point. He really pushed me a chapter a week, half killed me to do it. I didn't think I was going to do it, but we did it in 3 months. That was quite incredible. But then we've got the 6 month process at the end of it to get all the copywriting and all the checking and all of those things that need to happen to make a book proper, as it were.
Proper.
Make it even more properer. So all of those things. So thanks for that, Sue. If there's any more comments, please give your comments in the comments field. We'll pick them up right away. But Sue, you've got you've got a freebie offer to give away today. Tell us about your freebie offer, Sue.
Yes, I mean, if you have an idea, or even actually, you don't even have to have an idea. I mean, if you've got an idea, great. But if you haven't, you're just interested.
Yeah.
I'd still be very happy to talk to you. As I said earlier, in case you weren't here, I don't do children's books or fictions or anything, or poetry or anything like that. I'm just not the right person for you. I won't be much use, quite frankly. Much as I love those things, it's just not what I do professionally. But if you have a book that is in any way related to your work, to your career, to your business, to, you know, that you think, you know, could help you to advance your business in any way, it doesn't have to be a business book, as I said, then I'd love to see if I can help. And I'm offering a 30-minute free consultation. And it's very simple. You can just go, it's on our website now. You can just go onto the website and click the button. I think Birdin's going to share that.
We'll put it in the link. Yeah, we will. There it is. Yeah.
And you can book yourself in. There's a very simple little form that you need to just tell us a little bit about yourself. Don't worry, it'll take you 2 seconds, 2 minutes maybe. But it's not a quiz. It's not a questionnaire. It's just a kind of just so that I know something about you before we meet. And my colleague Debbie will book you in for that 30 minutes just as soon as we have the availability to do so.
There you go, folks.
I'd love to meet any of you.
Yeah, well, there we go. And if we can orchestrate those conversations on your behalf, then that's fantastic. So there you go, folks. There it is. It's up to you now, guys. So I hope, folks, that you found that a useful session, and it's given you ideas to start those book writing embers to take hold, folks. And if you need any further advice, then, you know, as we've said, you can contact Sue via her website. She just provided the link. You can also get hold of her on LinkedIn, I'm sure. Birdin has put all that stuff in the websites. I've just in the comments fields in the chat. So that's great. Thanks again, Sue, for encouraging us all this morning to think about writing a book. You know, we've loved having you on the show. So it sounds like, I always say this, but we need another round 2 of this, and we can take this even more further. So I know that's not grammatically correct, but I quite like it. So this show will also be on podcast too shortly. People, give us a day to get that sorted. So that'll be coming out too very shortly. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel for us as well. And Birdin's put the links in the comments already. So before I get on to what's next week, folks, you know, a word on what's the purpose and the why with Leaderslive. And it all starts with the idea and the passion that you are more than you think. So, I think that might need one of these. And we're also building a community of like-minded folks, you know, as you know. And this is particularly relevant to building back better businesses. And, you know, and for people, you know, for us following the last 2 years, you know, it's been difficult, hasn't it? So this is a community that rebuilds from there. And our motto is I to the power of we. So Leaderslive is, you know, it's freely available. It's an edutaining expression of this, and anyone can join in and enjoy taking part in extraordinary conversations like we've had this morning, extraordinary conversations with Sue about writing books. And these simple ideas, we aim to make a difference and make the world a better place too, folks. And we want to bring a spirit of freedom, a spirit of joy, and a spirit of fun, and that feel-good factor to all of our working lives. That's why this is so important, folks. So that's Leaderslive. If you want to know a little bit about me professionally, what I do, so my commercial offerings are I speak and I host events for companies. I facilitate top teams through leadership sort of strategic planning processes. I develop high-performing teams and leadership programs, and I'm also a fully qualified executive coach. And I also co-founded a thing called Inspired CEO. So if you are an SME CEO, I invite you to experience how we collaborate to play a bigger game in our business lives. And I've invited Sue to come along to that at some point when she's got a free morning for one of our open events. And, you know, actually, you know, you guys, you know, you can be a guest speaker as well here as well. So if you've got something to say, you know, we can open up the room for you to be a guest speaker as well as be on Leaderslive, of course. And please contact me directly for any more information, and the links will be in the description shortly. So the goose for next week, folks, on Tuesday the 8th of March at 8:45 UK time, our usual time, I'll be hanging out with the amazing Shona Taylor. personal energy management expert about preventing business owner burnout. Ooh. And well-being is a crucial subject, and we haven't been frightened about looking at this, folks. You know, we've been covering this from many different angles over this time period. And Shona will be bringing and sharing her experience of burnout and how that experience helped to shape her and her business life moving forward, and what she has to share for us is a product of that. So be there or be square, folks, is our standard strapline to end. So quick, so you can catch us on podcast as well, and I'm just trying to find the wrap up scene. Here we are. So you can catch us on podcast too shortly, and the links will be in the description. And in the meantime, that's a wrap, folks. So from Sue and from Birdin, you know, we all wish you a great week ahead. You can bop along to the outro music, wave goodbye for us to you all, folks. So that's all for now, folks. See you again next week. Ta-ra a bit.